Hey everybody, Stu Smith here with another Q&A, and we'll do some combat swimmer stroke tech critique of your technique as well. I have a few videos ready to go. But first, as people start to gather, I'll look for comments. If you guys have any questions, you can start posting them and I will start answering them. Good week this week. Decent weather. Kind of rainy, crappy day today, but I'll take it. Wasn't crazy hot here in Maryland this week. A lot of humidity though. But we're learning. I think one thing you will learn as you train in different environments is that you have to get really good at understanding hydration and electrolytes, whether it is hot and humid or it is arid or even chilly and arid, because sometimes whenever you're in arid environments you won't sweat because your sweat just evaporates right off of you, so you won't think you are dehydrated until it's too late. So watch for things like chapped lips, dry skin, scratchy throat, dry nasal passages. The other obvious one is if you have salt stains on your clothes, that means you have sweat, but it immediately evaporated and the salt got into your clothes. So if you see any of that, or if you're drenched wet with sweat in a humid environment, obviously you need to hydrate. And you need to add in some electrolytes. Electrolytes are just salts. So salt, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, any of the EMs, so to speak. But anyway, you can look it up. But mostly, though, you will sweat sodium. But that's the thing that you have to be careful of, when you're training in the summer. So I think we've done a pretty good job. Always have water with you. What we do when we go on longer runs, we tend to run one direction and then we turn around and come back. So I do what's called my strategic water drop. I'll start the run with 2 water bottles and I will pour electrolytes into one of them and drop it about a mile into a run, carry my other one, sip on it throughout the run. By the time I'm at the turnaround point, running some hills, I've finished that water bottle and then I'm coming back. And sure enough, about a mile from my destination of returning home, I am really needing some water. And that's when that little strategic water drop comes in handy. So whether you carry it the whole time or you do those little drops, I would suggest thinking about that strategically whenever you are training, because it can be the difference of you performing well, but it could also be the difference of you living or dying. It's heat exhaustion, and heat stroke is no joke. It can happen and it seeps up on you really quickly. All right, let's take some questions. James has sent a few in here. Let's see what's going on. In the middle of 12 weeks to buds, my run and swim times have dropped mid-9s. That's not bad. In a matter of weeks, that's good. However, I noticed my performance becoming very poor because of no rest. Well, probably in the middle of what's called an overload principle. If you're kind of new to this type of training, you are not quite used to this type of training yet. So typically you will see huge drops in times, and you'll also see huge jumps in your scores, but you're more tired than you normally are. And things start to kind of taper out a little bit. But as you progress, you start ramping it up again. So no one responds the same way to this type of training. A lot of it depends on your athletic history. A lot of it depends on how you are eating and sleeping. That's very important, because when you increase the stress, the physical stress of your workouts, whether that's time, it's intensity, um, you name it, uh, things that you're not used to doing and you suck at, that you got to get used to doing, that increases the stress. So therefore, you need to increase your recovery, so you are eating better, you're sleeping better, you're staying hydrated. All of those things matter. Otherwise, your performance can drop. Um, Next part of his question is, I think a big explanation is because I'm not eating enough. Oh, there you go. But I'm physically feel my body's burning out. Yes, I think that's exactly what I was talking about. Without even reading that section, that's what I answered previously, because I see it all the time. Is it appropriate to take a few days off despite the plan not saying so? Absolutely. In fact, I wrote that book long before I created my mobility day. And now on Thursdays, consider this: whatever's for Thursday, scrap it and make it a mobility day. That mobility day works like this: you do 5 minutes of cardio, non-impact cardio. You do 5 minutes of stretching and foam rolling. You repeat that 5 times. So it takes about an hour. Then you go swim for 20 minutes. Just nice, easy technique swimming, with fins, without fins, up to you. Nothing crazy. Then do 10 minutes of treading. Then do 10 minutes of dynamic stretches and chest deep water. That is my new mobility day. When I say new, it's about 5-6 years old. I've been doing it myself, but I've also making all my guys here who train with me do it as well. And let me tell you what it does. It makes day 5 and day 6 so much better than just taking a day off. A day off is fine. We usually take days off on Sundays, but that Thursday mobility day is considered our technique day, where we'll do some drown proofing, we'll do some skills like that, but it's an easy day and it really works. And where it works the best is on day 5, day 6. Instead of going into it burned out completely, maybe 40% of what you normally would feel like 100% going into a workout. You've taken a day to recover, so now you're maybe at 75, 85%, of full capacity, which is typical. Later in the week, you get a little more tired. So that's what I would do. Consider just taking that Thursday workout in any of your books and making it a mobility day. If you wanted to, you could bump whatever's on Thursday and make it part of Friday's workout, if that makes you feel better. But it will make you feel better. All right. Hope that answers your question. But I will put in a link to the article about an article I wrote recently called Don't Skip Mobility Day. And I do it once a week, do it on Thursdays, sometimes Wednesdays, depending on where I need to put it. And it is life-changing, especially for me as I aged into my 40s and into my 50s. I absolutely needed it. But then I noticed when the younger guys would join me, guys that are teens and 20s that would join me, they had better workouts and scores the following 2 days of the week. So I'm all for the easy mobility day. Sometimes less is more, especially if you're not used to more. When you're not used to more, it can beat you up a little bit. All right. Hope that helps you, James. T asks 2 questions. Thoughts on occasional treadmill runs? Absolutely. Yeah. Tempo runs. I think that's a great way to maintain your tempo. Good call. Also currently running through 12 weeks to buds. If I'm not worried about swim times, kind of replace some of the swims with running workouts. Yes, absolutely. And be careful with putting too much volume in there. It's not really a huge amount of volume in that workout book. So I think adding a few run days is not going to be a bad thing. But if you feel like it is, maybe maybe add in some non-impact cardio activity too. Biking, Tabata intervals. Something that will really challenge your legs and your lungs, like running does. That has helped me in the past many, many times. I would consider that. But one thing I would not replace, even though you're good at swimming without fins for 500 yards, is don't skip the swims with fins on leg days typically. Um, because you might be good at 500 yards without fins, but are you good at swimming with fins for 1 to 2 miles? Because you need to get good at that. That is a weekly test at Buds that you need to be able to handle before you go to boot camp. One of my guys recently stated that there were guys at his prep class who never put on a pair of fins before and were first starting to swim with fins at prep. So they spent most of their time during the delayed entry program just focused on swimming without fins to pass that 500-yard swim. They never did anything to do that. And they were behind the 8 ball significantly. And if you've ever put on a pair of rocket fins for the first time, you will know what I'm talking about, because that pain is real, whether it's in your ankles or it's in your feet or it's in your legs. It's tough to do. All right. But yes, absolutely. If you're good at swimming, don't waste your time swimming. 750 is good enough. Work on another weakness if you have it. Hey, Stu, when I see some people do the CSS, when they are breathing, go more on their backs. Is this incorrect? It's not incorrect. It's just the way I don't do it. I don't like to over rotate like that. Because, usually you can kind of swim at like a 45-degree angle and just slightly turn to breathe, right? Here, or you can roll on your belly and turn 90 degrees to breathe. I don't know why you need to roll any further than that. There are some people who teach it that way. I do not. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I have a different style of teaching it. And I don't know of any other benefits to that. Other than, I guess, you get a longer breath cycle. I don't think it's needed. I breathe the same way I do when I'm doing freestyle. So I turn, and this much is coming out of my mouth, or my face is coming out of the water. Take my inhale right there. No need to do this, right? And be looking up at the stars and behind you. Just turn, just like you're doing a freestyle catch. Turn to breathe, just like you're doing freestyle. Half your face is in the water. Keep your head down and go. It's just more efficient that way. Let's see. Adding weights to 12 weeks to Buds. 2 times a week, what days? Good question. Because it's not really a weightlifting cycle. It is a calisthenics and cardio cycle. If you guys have seen, and you can look at the links in the description below, I'll put something on a seasonal tactical fitness periodization cycle. It's a year of training where I spend the spring and summer kind of focusing on building up my calisthenics and cardio, running progressions, swimming progressions, all that stuff. And then, calisthenics, high reps. And then fall and winter, we still warm up with calisthenics to kind of maintain our PT scores, but we lift heavier. So our reps are lower, our running's lower, but faster. And our swimming's definitely still remains with, big scuba fins, especially on leg days. And we work on some skills with swims. But this is the weightlifting version of the 12 weeks to Buds. Navy SEAL weight training workout book. This is a winter lift cycle. So what I would do personally is do 12 weeks to Buds, then do this back to back if you needed a lift cycle. However, if you're just trying to maintain some strength while you improve your calisthenics and cardio, you can still do that, but you got to be smart about it, right? So on days when I have an upper body day for calisthenics, that's a good day for later on. You can add in bench, pull downs, rows, those type of lifts in there. On days when I'm doing legs, squats, lunges, hops up and down, box jumps, whatever, that's a good day to add in some leg workouts. However, I will say this, if you're trying to get faster at running, heavy leg lifting at the same time does not mix. We do our heavy leg lifting in the winter when we are not trying to run faster, longer distance timed runs. It's more short, explosive speed work that we're doing in the winter. So we will still do a mile and a half here and there. So our mileage in the winter drops to about 10, maybe 15 miles a week, whereas spring and summer, we're at the 25, 30 miles a week zone. But the difference is speed. We do the shorter, faster stuff in the winter, try to maintain some of that speed that we built up in the winter into the spring, trying to get our run times down to 6-minute mile pace, for any run, 7-minute for longer runs. And that's the cycle. It is a periodization cycle that looks like a bell curve through the year. You just can't hammer it year after year after year at high levels. Otherwise, you just start falling apart. And you don't really see the results you're seeking in a lift cycle when you're adding 25, 30 miles a week. You don't see the results in a running cycle when you're trying to squat 400 pounds or deadlift 500 pounds, right? They don't work together very well. So that's why we cycle them through the year. It's just a process I call seasonal tactical fitness periodization. But great question. I get that question asked a lot. And to be honest with you, that's why I wrote this book, because it answers that question thoroughly. What is the likelihood of making it through buds only knowing the CSS on one side? Eesh. I can see putting a tremendous amount of strain on your left side. I wouldn't do it. You should learn both sides, especially with fins. Without fins, doesn't really matter. I mean, you're going to be swimming 500 yards. Who cares? If your half of your swim of a 500-yard swim is not as good as the other half, as long as it's good, it's a good time. You don't want to fail a swim, obviously. So it's not that important without fins. With fins, it's very important. Very important. Because you're going to be swimming for an hour to an hour and a half with a pair of fins on. You don't want to stay on one side with that, I promise you. Going to see a recruiter late next week. In fact, I'm going to show you a great strong side, weak side CSS right after a few of these questions, and we can talk about it. So I'm going to see a recruiter later next week. Should I start taper now or wait and see what the recruiter says for the PST? Yeah, don't worry about tapering now because you still got to get through MEPS, and that's another week before you do that. You don't really need a taper. I mean, take an easy day, do a mobility day before your PST. That's really all you need. I don't really think you need a long taper before you take the PST. Eventually, once you get really good at the PST, I mean, my guys do a workout with me and then they go take their PST later on in the day with their mentor. Because here's the thing, you don't want the PST to screw up your workouts, right? If you take a day off and then the next day all you do is a PST, you really kind of screwed up 2 days there. So we always say don't let a PST interfere with your training. But for your first one, yeah, you might want to take a day off prior just to be well rested, well tested. But eventually you're going to want to just keep moving and go get after it. All right. Also, should I start incorporating weightlifting into 12 weeks to buds? I just mentioned that. However, is there much of a point since we won't lift a single weight at boot camp, and you won't do much running either at boot camp, and you won't do much PT unless it's on your own at boot camp. So would it be better to focus on weights during prep? Well, if you suck at lifting now, you should probably incorporate weights, right? You need to assess yourself and see what your strengths and weaknesses are. If you're coming from a strength background, 9 times out of 10, you don't need to add any weights. However, if you're a cross country kid doing the 12 weeks to buds, you may have some serious strength weaknesses that you need to address now. That may take some time. You may have to go through a full winter lift cycle just to put on some mass because you're too skinny and you're going to get crushed underneath a boat and log. So the answer is it depends on what you need to do and how you incorporate weights. Once again, I say be patient, do your 12 weeks of buds workout as is, work on your calisthenics and cardio, another one right there, during that cycle. And then in the winter lift cycle, you focus on winter lifting. Here's another good one. Increase strength and crush PST. That was a real good one. That's one of my latest winter lift cycles that people were not only maintaining their PST scores during an actual winter lift cycle, they were improving them to the point of having PRs in a winter lift cycle, which I have not seen in quite some time during our typical winter lift cycles. Our goal is just kind of maintain during the winter lift and get strong. But we had guys doing really well. And all we changed up was we'd have 3 weeks of lifting, followed by 1 week of PST, 3 weeks of lifting, 1 week of PST. And if you need a winter lift cycle, that's a good way to do it because it will not only help you maintain your PST scores, you can actually improve them, if you do it right and not overdo the running, not overdo the lifting, but there's a fine line and balance where you can address your weaknesses depending on what they are. But once again, there's no real one answer to everybody's journey, right? It really depends on your athletic history, your current strengths and weaknesses. Do you need to gain weight? Do you need to lose weight? Don't just think you need this. Actually assess yourself. I wrote an article called, let me see what it's called. It is called Physical Assessment Tools to Get to and Through Selection. In fact, I will put that in the comment section as well as the comment section of the of this video in the description section. So, all right. Hey, with that, I'm going to come back to some of these questions. But let's do some screen sharing here, and let me show you this CSS. We'll just do one, and then I'll come back to some questions. All right. So let's see. Here we go. All right. So let me know if you guys can see this. All right, so this is a good one. I might have shown this one last week, and now that I think about it, I might have. But anyway, this is a really good one. I did discuss it on a recent either Instagram post or I do new TikTok combat swimmer stroke critiques. What I like about the TikTok option is that it allows me to voice over someone's video. So I can just, you guys send me a video, I can voice it over, post it on TikTok, and you guys got me talking directly to you, for it. And you can't really tell who it is. I mean, you may know who it is, but most people can't tell. So if you don't want it up there, I won't put it up there. All right, so here we go. See what we got here. We have great kick off the wall. And those of you who are worried about strong side, weak side, watch this. This is his strong side, I think. But I can't tell because it's so good. So top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. That was like 4 strokes to get across the wall, or 4 breaths. If you count this breaststroke pull out here. And look, I'm going to stop right here because a lot of people say, My mentor won't let me do breaststroke pullouts. That's wrong. You can't do that. Well, that's your mentor. Not every mentor has this rule. And when you get to prep, they don't care. So breaststroke pullouts, fine. But if you can't do them, don't do them. Just take them out. That's easy, right? Don't be a swimming troll, right? Just follow the technique of the stroke, because this is the most important. And watch this. This is his weak side, I think. Good streamline, top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. Hold that glide. Top, bottom, kick. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Just like his other side. Take a look at his other side. I can't tell the difference. Now, the reason why I know he's switching sides is because he's facing me on both sides. And this is like a mirror image of this dude swimming. I mean, this is a perfect CSS. Now, he has a high elbow that probably the only thing I would ding him on is that high elbow recovery. You know, they would probably say, hey, you're sharking. Keep that elbow in the water. But once again, just like taking out the breaststroke pullout, this is an easy fix. You just keep your elbow in the water. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. Boom. That's one of the best I've seen. Now, he did this in 45 seconds. So what's that tell you? If you do the math, 45 seconds is a 7:30. Oh, sorry, you guys couldn't see it anymore. My bad. I must have hit the unshare button. I'll put it on there one more time. Never mind. So, sorry about that. That was my bad. Anyway, it was a really good combat swimmer stroke that was really a mirror image of his strong and weak side. So I'm going to share it again, just so since I screwed up. Never fails. Technology. All right, you guys see that now? Looks like you can. All right, so once again, take a look at this. So top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide, high elbow, we can fix that. Breaststroke pull out. If you can't do it, skip it. But this is like 4 strokes to get across the pool, 5 if you count the breaststroke pull out, but 4 breaths. And I can't tell the difference between this side right here. Notice thing he's not doing a lot of flutter kicks that waste energy. He's just gliding. And the reason why he can do this is because he has a really tight streamline. Notice his biceps are on his ears. He keeps his head down. Notice when he kicks off the wall, his head is down. It's not looking straight up. Look at that right there. That's huge. This right here, that streamline position right here will get you in the water moving at a yard per second every time. Work on your streamline position. That's what's going to make you faster. That's why this guy's so good. And he swam this in like 45 seconds. But, you know, if you do the math on that, that's a 7:30 pace. But he couldn't swim a 7:30 pace. So what's that tell you? Just not in swimming shape to do a 7:30 pace. That's easy. Let's fix it with the 50-50 workout, or be happy with your 8:15. There's nothing wrong with 8:15, 8:20, 8:30. You know, just keep it under 9 minutes. You know, as long as it's not a gut check 9 minutes, that's where you want to be, right? If it's not a gut check 8-minute swim, that's where you want to be. But if it's a gut check and you're putting out in that swim, it's going to ruin the rest of your PT test, potentially, or it won't be as optimal, let's just say. Like, it can interfere with your pull-ups. It can interfere with your sit-ups, you know, with the flutter kicks. It can interfere with your run. Could interfere with your blood sugar levels, so you bonk during the run and you just crash, so you got no more energy. So anyway, wanted to share that with you because I thought that was a really good CSS. Let's see where I left off here. Currently in delayed entry program for Air Force Special Warfare. Have not shipped. Having problems with plowing water when I swim the 500 meter. Can't stop this. Did you see what I just showed you? That is a streamlined body position. So what I would suggest is go to YouTube, and search in the search section up there that says streamline swimmer position. There's some great videos that teach you how to streamline. Now, if you can't get your arms up over your shoulder like this and your bicep on your ears like that, you need to work on your shoulder mobility. All right, you may need to work on your ankle mobility. All of that needs to be nice and streamlined. And whenever you recover your arms to over your head, it should be tight to your body. You shouldn't be out here doing a recovery. This is like, you do this in the water, it's like swimming backwards. So keep everything tight to you. So that's what I would do. Probably two things. There's an article I wrote called Dude, You're Not in Swimming Shape, if you're just muscling through the water. And the second one is the most important part of swimming. I wrote an article on this one too, is your streamlined body position. So look up streamlined body position, Stu Smith. Dude, You're Not in Swimming Shape, Stu Smith. And then do the 50-50 workout. I just came up with a new Air Force Special Warfare 50-50 workout that incorporates some underwaters, some catching your breath, doing freestyle combinations. But you can go to StuSmithFitness.com and just search those on the webpage, and they'll all pop up there because they're all on Stu Smith Fitness. But they're good articles, and it's just free information for you that tells you how to do it. And I usually link some videos in there to not only explain it in words, but also show it in video. Because one thing I've learned with swimming is you can't just hear somebody talking about it. You can't just read somebody writing about it. You have to see it in action and then put that in your head and then go practice it. Otherwise, it's kind of challenging to learn it. All right. So what do you think of supplementary Olympic lifting routine for Bud's prep if I enjoy it? That's great if you enjoy it. You know what I enjoy? I was a powerlifting football player. You know what I did before Bud's? I didn't do any powerlifting or football. If you need strength, you should be lifting. If you enjoy strength because that's what you enjoy, but you suck at other things like running and rucking and swimming and high rep calisthenics, you may want to focus on that. Otherwise, it may not be pretty for you. Your weaknesses will be exposed in any day at selection. So you go there with whatever weakness you want, you'll see it again. And that weakness will then turn into a gut check. So, for instance, you're not going to be good at everything. You can try, but you're not going to be good at everything, right? So there's going to be something that you have to suck up. So from my background, coming in as a powerlifting football player that evolved into a rugby player, that evolved into spec ops athlete, to train for that transition, all I did was like triathlon training and calisthenics. Just what I did to prepare my body to become an endurance level athlete, because I was not. It hurt to run a mile. Anything over 100 yards was long distance. That was my weakness. Strength was not my weakness. I didn't lift weights for 18 months before I went to Bud's, and I loved weightlifting. I've been lifting weights since I was 12 years old, right? But I didn't need to lift weights. I needed to do other things. Just because you enjoy it, doesn't really matter. What do you need to do is the question. Whew. All right. I want to stay around 190, 200. That's where I was. I was probably 190, 195 going through Bud's. But you're 170 now with running and rucking I'm doing. You just need to eat more. Don't blame running and rucking on your weight loss. Blame you're not eating enough food. And you need to be on the seafood diet, SEE. Whatever food you see, you need to eat it. Now, obviously, that needs to be good food, fruits and vegetables, grains, pastas, meats, all types of protein. Add protein powder if you need it. Add a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before you go to bed. Whatever, right? You just need to put it in there. They feed you a lot at Bud's. Yeah. Armies, are you in the Army? Can't tell. If you're in the Army, yeah, there's a couple of courses there that will starve you. Ranger school primarily. But yeah, buds, you'll eat plenty of food. So depending on what program you're getting in there, you got to eat a lot more food if you don't want to lose weight. No, I have to eat a lot, but overeating more animal proteins could slow me down. I don't know. Could they? I don't think so. Why don't you disprove it or prove it? And I think everybody's different. If you want to get your protein from vegetables, plant based, go for it. If you want to get your protein from whey protein or animal protein, it's up to you. I never had a problem with it, either one. But here's what's going to slow you down. If you're used to running at 170 and you're trying to get up to 190, being 20 pounds heavier makes running harder. It's going to make calisthenics harder. Not saying that it's impossible. Like I said, I was 6 feet, 195 going through buds. That was perfect weight for me. But it made running a little bit harder. That was my gut check. But also my athletic history made running a little bit harder because I was an endurance athlete. So there's a lot of things that make things harder. I don't think you can necessarily blame it all on animal proteins. All right, here we go. All right. Cool. Manuel from Mexico. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So, what's a good 4-mile timed run to shoot for? I've answered this many, many times, Kyle. In fact, I wrote a great article. Let's see, 20 miles a week. Yeah, running plan to help you get to and through selection. And it's 20 miles a week, really fast. But yeah, what I try to shoot for is a 7-minute mile. If it's anything over 4 miles, shoot for 7-minute mile pace. That means if you're going to buds and you got a weekly 4-mile timed runs, 28 minutes is your goal. If you're going ranger school, 35 minutes is your 5-mile goal. Anything else, try to keep it at 7-minute mile pace. That's a good standard for any selection that has a run or timed run event, whether it's to get into the training or to get through the training. However, if you're going shorter, going 3 miles or shorter, I try to shoot closer to 6-minute mile pace, maybe 6:30 at the highest. So if you're doing a mile and a half, that means you're running a 9-minute, 9:30, somewhere in there. If you're running 3 miles timed run, that's 18 minutes to 19-minute zone. And if you're on 2-mile timed run, between 12 and 13. So those are all the paces I would recommend doing. If you're at a 30 miles or 30-minute mile, I would try to get a little faster because you're going to be running in boots, pants, and not soft sand, but hard pack sand for your timed runs at buds. Question about only doing the CSS on one side. NSW scouts require you to do both sides. Some do. You have to display both sides of the stroke. I think that's very wise. You should. Absolutely. Yeah. Rich Black, I know here in Maryland, requires both sides. So, yes, I would recommend doing it on both sides. But does it really matter in the long term? No. It does if you want to get to the training because they're going to require it. But in the long term, you need to learn both sides are more important to get through the training at buds because you might take the 500-yard swim a few times prior to buds, but you're going to take a 2-mile ocean swim every week at Buds, and some even longer. You'll do a 3, 4, and a 5-mile ocean swim as well. And that will require you and your buddy switching sides quite frequently. Sir, my ship date's not till January. That's good. You have time to train. I know that I can crush the PST and run in 3 months, but I'm learning the combat swimmer stroke. So, first of all, my number one rule is don't even talk to a recruiter and get a ship date until you can crush the PST. Otherwise, all you get to do is now go to your mentor and fail the PST week after week after week, which just sucks. I mean, that's not a good first impression you're leaving for anybody. And guess what? If you don't show up there and crush that PST on day one of your PST, no one takes you seriously. You're just like everybody else that wants to go to Buds or Diver or EOD that can't pass a PST. Save yourself some heartache and be taken seriously as an adult by actually crushing the PST before you get there. Otherwise, here's what's going to happen. You're going to spend all of delayed entry program taking PSTs, only practicing those PSTs, and you're not really preparing for the other events that you really need to get used to. All you've done is gotten prepared to get to Buds. You haven't done anything to get yourself prepared to get through Buds, which is 4-mile runs, 2-mile swims with fins, treading water, practicing drown proofing skills, practicing simulating being tied. Don't tie yourself. But there's so much more. Lifting to get prepared for logs and boats if you're weak. It's just you just set yourself up on a timeline that you can no longer control when you do it that way. But yeah, I've had people go from 10-minute swim to an 8-minute swim in a month. You just got to practice it. Practice that 50-50 swim workout. And I'll put a link to it in the description below, but you can find it in the article section at Stu Smith Fitness. Well, cleans and snatches benefit me at Buds. I did cleans. I was a power lifter, did clean and jerks. I didn't do snatches. In fact, I've never done snatches as part of a workout program. Just not something that I really enjoyed doing. Not knocking it. I'm just saying that I didn't do it. So will it benefit me at Buds? Well, put it this way. I never did them prior to Buds, and I still made it through Buds. So maybe. I don't know. I don't think it really matters. Having the ability to lift weight from the ground to over your head, yes, will benefit you. Now, do you need to do it all the time? Or do you have a good foundation of strength that you can build upon other elements of fitness that might be a weakness, like endurance or muscle stamina? It's really difficult. If you're a strength athlete, you will maintain your strength even when you don't lift. You might not be at your 1 rep max, but you will still be stronger than most people in your Buds class coming from a strength background. Once again, running will probably be a weakness. Weighted pull-ups, push-ups for increasing body weight, max 2 reps. Yes. I love doing weight lift. In fact, we do weight vest Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, we put on a weight vest and do every calisthenic exercise we do is with a weight vest, especially pull-ups. Yeah, I'd be careful about increasing weight too much. One thing I don't like to do is it's like anything, that gets in the 40, 50 pound or greater weight range on a weight vest to do pull-ups. I've just seen too many people pop their bicep tendon and then need surgery. Not in my groups because I try to avoid it, but just over the years, people have needed bicep surgery for doing like 50 to 75 pound pull-ups, even though they're just doing 1 or 2. They pop a bicep tendon, and that's not good. You don't want to pull a muscle like that and then need surgery. So be careful with it. don't go crazy. My advice is try to keep it between 20 and 25 pounds and work on your reps. Don't do kipping at all, whether it's with weight or without a weight vest. And just try to be nice and controlled, especially on the down movement of the pull up, because I've seen people pop shoulders too if they're going too fast with a weight vest. So if you auto qual the PST, how soon could you get a ship date? Well, I have had people take the PST with me long before they talk to a recruiter. They crush the PST, hit all the auto qual numbers. They go take the PST, they crush it, pass it, auto qual first time, and get their ship date within a week. Because here's the deal. When you do that, people take you seriously. Instead of you calling a recruiter and they never calling you back because, you know, they just got other things to do and they don't really take you seriously because you failed 5 PSTs in a row. You know, if you go in there and crush that PST and your mentor says, hey, this guy's ready to go, you can get him a ship date, he's crushing the PST, guess who's going to be calling you? Your recruiter. They're going to be saying, hey, good job on the PST. When do you want to go? All right, next ship date is a month away from now, right? 2 months away from now. You know, I've had guys get through MEPS, take their PST in the same week, and ship out 1 month later. So depends on how quickly or how long you want to stay in delayed entry program. All right. Sometimes those month laters are full, so you can't go a month later just by sheer numbers. So it might have to be 2 or 3 months later. But it usually depends on, one, when you're eligible to ship, and you want that to be as soon as possible. So that means you got to crush the PST as soon as possible. Then you go and you get your ship date depending on what's the next available. And if you get the next available within a few months, you're good to go. Get out of here. Go serve. What are your favorite vegetables to consume? I eat broccoli every day. Eat asparagus probably most days, every other day maybe. I eat big salads, green leafy lettuce, romaine lettuce, spinach. Usually put chicken on top, maybe a salmon on top. That's some good food right there. I eat that mostly for lunch. I'll eat a big salad with salmon or chicken on top, and dinners will be steak, chicken, pork with broccoli, asparagus, potatoes. You know, those are my favorites. How about you? I heard you should be running 90 to 100 miles a month prior to shipping. Yeah, I think that's a good number. I run 100 miles a month now. You know, it's only 25 miles a week. So, in fact, I tell a story all the time about the guy who went to run 100 miles in a weekend in one of those 100-mile races. And I said, don't do it because you're going to come back, you're going to be jacked up, and you're not going to be able to run for a while. I didn't realize that he would come back even worse than that and had a stress fracture, had some joint issues. He didn't run at all for 3 months because he couldn't. Right. However, you know, even though he ran 100 miles that weekend, I ran 100 miles that month. I ran 100 miles the next month, and I ran 100 miles the month after that. So in the time that he ran 100 miles, I ran 300 miles. So don't do a gut check that's going to put you in the hurt locker for 3 months when you miss out on actual 300 miles of running when you do that. So that's a better way to build mental toughness over time versus one big kick in the nuts. You know, you're going to do it one day at a time, especially when you don't feel like running, but you go run anyway. That's a better way to build mental toughness towards this stuff. But yeah, 25 miles a week is fine. 90 is easy. I mean, that's what, 21, 22 a week? Easy day. But I would do that. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I wrote an article. I'll put it in the description below about running a good 20-mile a week running program for you. If you want to add some miles, you can to get your 100 if you want, but it's up to you. Isometric barbell military press holds. Yes, we do that all the time. We'll do plate holds, just right like this. Just hold a plate, lock it out. So I mean, I would say, yeah, you can use the barbell, you can use a plate, you can use a sandbag. Usually, I'd say around 40 to 50 pounds is sufficient. So a barbell's great. Hold it for 5 minutes if you can. Sucks. It's a good little challenge. That and plank pose, whoo, are like time machines. Make time go really slow. How do you stay in shape at boot camp? You don't. Consider boot camp a taper, right? You might be able to PT a little bit on your own before you go to bed. Wake up early. Get laundry duty. Do some pull-ups on the clothes racks. That's pretty tough. I don't really recommend any daily vitamins for buds. Buds prep. Just multivitamin is fine. I like the gummies personally. Calcium is important. Yes. Onions too. I like onions on my salad. But vitamins are not allowed at buds. Vitamins or supplements. You cannot. 100 miles a week for a month? No, that's stupid. Don't do that. Why would you do that? First of all, any running should be a progression. So, last thing you would ever want to do is go from 20 miles a week to 100 miles a week out of the blue. And you'll never run 100 miles a week at buds. Very good. Good answer. 100 miles a month is plenty. Plenty. But make them fast. The last thing you want to do is get good at running slow. I guarantee you're not running 100 miles in a week fast, or even 50 miles a week for that matter, fast, right? You're probably doing some 10-mile runs that are slow, and that's just going to get you good at running slow. We had a guy who, during COVID, he never came back to the academy, and he was running on his own, but he was getting 50 miles a weekend. I'm like, damn, that's pretty good. And then realizing that his pace screwed him up because he couldn't pass the 4-mile timed run in 32 minutes. So he was not running faster than an 8-minute mile for most of his runs. And that really messed him up. He was running 50 miles a week, but they were slow. So the average is a week is 75. Hell Week alone estimated 250. I think you might be getting some statistics that are a little exaggerated there, Ryan. I put it this way: any running you want to do, you want to progress to. That's not all running miles. That might be some walking miles in there. I don't think you do 50 miles a day in Hell Week. Just experiencing Hell Week myself. Even including paddling a boat around the Coronado. We never came up. I don't think we traveled 250 miles total. So don't get too beat up in it, right? I wrote an article the other day called Opinions and Facts. You need to learn to distinguish people's opinions from facts. Some of these statements I've made today were my opinion, right? But they are usually voiced in experience and the facts and statistics. So I don't recommend doing that kind of mileage. Otherwise, you're going to break, right? And after Hell Week, you're not going to be running with boats and logs anymore. So you got 4 weeks to kind of suck it up. After that, you actually learn what to do. Yeah, let's change the tone here a little bit. Let's talk about Bud's Hell Week hallucinations. I only got a few minutes anyway, and I got to go, but this is a good one. Crazy stories about Hell Week. Let's think. Yeah, by day 3 you start hallucinating. I remember, just one. Here's what happens. I think scientifically, here's what happens. Like when you're been awake for so long, your dreams start getting superimposed over reality. So whatever your brain is kind of concocting, you start seeing it with your eyes open. So it was weird. I remember just seeing, like, looking at a fire hydrant and thinking it was like this little miniature muscle man giving me a double bicep pose. And then the bridge columns when we were paddling the boats around Coronado looked like giant Pez dispensers with these cartoon heads on them and stuff. And then there was this brick wall in the middle of the ocean where I kept pushing off the wall. Like I didn't want to hit this wall. It was crazy, and sometimes like you'd be talking to your, guys in your boat and they'd be talking gibberish and everybody starts laughing because you're like, what the hell did he just say? And he wakes up and is like, what? Huh? He didn't even realize it. But yeah, it's just good times, man. Good times. But I didn't see any mermaids. Didn't see any sharks. Might have been real sharks for all I know. Should runners avoid concrete? I tell you what, whenever when COVID hit and we lost our gym and we actually worked out all winter outside, we had to run a little more than our normal running cycle in the winters usually are just to stay warm. But we did it all on grass and not pavement, gravel, trails, turf. And that made a huge difference. So I would say if you're going to increase your mileage, I would suggest trying to run as much as you can on softer ground. So we run the beach. In fact, we run the beach once a week, and then we do a trail run once a week. So right there, almost 40% of our runs are done on softer ground than pavement. So good question. But yeah, I would highly recommend if you're going to run a lot, try to run on some softer ground. All right, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Hey, thanks for the questions. You guys did really well with these questions. I appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions that I didn't answer or you need a better answer, maybe, just send me an email. My email is stu@stusmith.com. If you want me to review your CSS, you can send me a video. I just need 50 yards of you swimming, nothing more, because I don't think a video file can be emailed much bigger than that. So just 50 yards of you swimming, I can critique it for you. You can send that to stu@stusmith.com. And if you guys have stuck around the whole time, I appreciate it. Go to stusmithfitness.com, use the code COMPETE20 and save 20% on whatever you want to get. So, and also check out the new TikTok page, StuSmith50, same as my Instagram page. There are a ton. In fact, all it is CSS critiques. I decided to make my TikTok nothing but CSS critiques. And then my Instagram's a mix of everything. So check it out. I appreciate your time, and you guys have a good one. We'll see you later.